The February 25th, 2019 meeting of the Environment and Public Works Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Baroth? Here. Chairman Brew?
Here.
Ms. DeFlorio?
Here.
Mr. Flagler Mitchell is excused. Mr. Holland?
Here.
Mr. Mafucci?
Here.
Mr. Wilt?
Here.
Is there anyone signed up for the public forum?
There is not.
Is there anyone present who has not signed up to speak who would like to address the committee at this time? Next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the January 14th, 2019 minutes of the Environment and Public Works Committee before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. The next item on the agenda is new business.
Referral 19-0040.
Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Moved by Legislator Wilt, seconded by Legislator DeFlorio. Legislator Baroth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the administration, I have a couple questions. First, the grant is meant to fund a number of things, including public education expenses. Could you tell me a bit about the public education expenses that will be paid for by this grant, through the chair?
Through the chair, certainly. This grant, which was applied for through the permission granted from last year's referral that allowed us to submit state applications. We submitted in October, and what this will fund will be costs associated with the salary of our recycling education coordinator, as well as materials and things that you may be familiar with already. Hopefully you have this magnet hanging prominently on your refrigerator.
I do.
Which needs no updating.
I do.
Key cards, which we know are very, very important for residents to know what they can do. And obviously our campaign is to inform folks on how to recycle right. That's our key message. So we've got a number of things on top of the salary that we'll be utilizing this grant funding for in 2019. We're wrapping the trailer that we have. You've probably seen that Household Hazardous Waste mobile collections, as well as pharmaceutical collections, large trailer, as well as our education trailer, a bit smaller, but we use that at festivals and other public events where we can disseminate public information to folks. Those are just examples of some of the things that we'll be utilizing this grant for. Reusable bags, obviously part of our public education message to encourage the use of reusable bags. Pencils are also a big hit in the classrooms as well too, so we continue to utilize those as well too. So again, those are examples of how we expect to use the funding. Again, this is a 50% grant, so it'll offset 50% of our anticipated expense.
Okay, thank you. And through the chair of the administration, so approximately we're spending about $132,000 or so on these activities and the materials and the salary. How much of this is of that $132,000 approximately, is going to be devoted towards the public education expenses, through the chair?
Through the chair, I would say virtually 100% of the expenses is related directly or indirectly to public education and outreach.
Okay, so essentially everything but the assistance for the salaries.
Well, through the chair, that individual's primary focus is on public education and outreach.
Okay, that's fair enough. Okay, thank you. And finally, I noticed in the referral that we stated the last time we received this grant was back in 2016. Was the grant not offered between 2017 and 2019, or did we not apply, or what happened, through the chair?
Through the chair, there was a change in the state regulations. Before, we would apply in arrears, if you will. We'd apply for reimbursement from years prior. We were in a holding pattern. This was a multi-year change in the regulations. So really the first opportunity that we had to apply was going into this year. Once it was clear the direction that the regulations were going, that we applied for anticipated expense versus reimbursed expense.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 19-0041, amend the 2019.
Moved by legislator DeFlorio, seconded by legislator Holland. Is there any discussion? Legislator Mafucci.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the administration. I noticed that Landry Mechanical Contractors' bid was quite lower than the others. Are we sure they're going to be able to do the work?
Through the chair, yes, we're confident they can do the work. We de-scope with contractors after bid opening, and they are confident they can perform the work. Landry has successfully completed other projects, so they're very familiar with the county process and county facilities.
Thank you. I have one follow-up question through you to through the chair to the administration. So the plumbing construction, I mean, it's essentially half the price. Do we know why that is?
Through the chair, just to clarify your question, in terms of between the first bidder and the next lowest bidder, I can't speak specifically to what the delta was between the two, what accounted for that, but I know Landry is comfortable moving forward with their bid as is.
Okay, thanks. I'm dependent on you.
We'll get it done, for sure.
Legislator DeFlorio.
Through the chair, just to confirm, did this get approved at the February planning board meeting?
Through the chair, yes, it did.
Thank you.
I have a question. The original project called for an allocation of $2 million, and this particular referral is adding additional $2,250,000. So is that due to a scope change after additional engineering, or was the original cost estimate that far off?
Through the chair, to the chair, the increase in funding required really twofold. One, for a scope change, where there's an addition, as described in the narrative of the referral, where we have a 2,500 square foot addition to the Ames building to provide additional laboratory space for the medical examiner's operation, primarily related to the opioid issue. So we had a scope component there that was an increase. And again, the project was further defined once we got into design, what the needs were for the building in terms of renovations and improvements and some additional parking that was required. Again, the original estimate was $2 million. It was a few years old. Far better definition once we got into design. So that accounted for some of the additional cost increase. We wanted to wait until we had our bids in hand so that we had budget certainty when we came forward, and we're confident with the overall funding required to complete the project.
Okay. Thank you. Legislator Baroth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the administration, I understood the explanation regarding the increase in cost. My question is, of the $2.25 million increase, how much of that is for just the new opioid toxicology lab?
I would have to, through the chair, I don't believe it's a specific lab that's being created, rather than it's just additional space that's being added on to the lab itself, as well as space for vehicles to pull in and out of the medical examiner's office. That accompanies or accounts for the 2,500 square feet of additional space. But I would estimate of the additional cost required, that represents about half.
So half is for the 2,500 square foot addition, through the chair?
Through the chair, approximately.
Approximately. Okay. Thank you very much.
Through the chair, and in the interest of time, if the legislator or members of his caucus would like the Department of Environmental Services come over, we have a schematic that shows the space, and we'd be happy to come to your caucus room and give you a presentation and some more information.
That would be very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 19-0042, authorize a contract.
Moved by legislator Howland. Second. Seconded by legislator Wilt. Is there any discussion? Legislator Wilt.
Yes, through the chair. Do we expect this project to affect the airline traffic? Through the chair, no, I don't. With any kind of project that we do on the ramps, runways, or taxiways, we always work with the airlines to make sure that they are aware of what's happening, along with the FAA. Aircraft can be rerouted to appropriately get back and forth to the ramp and to their gates.
So through the chair, so there's no problem with them, coming into the airport or leaving. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Legislator Baroth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the administration, I understand that we have to replace or at least repair pavement that's over 30 years old, and while we're doing that, we're going to be improving the de-icing fluid runoff. And that makes sense to me. My question is, through the chair, is how much of the pavement area at the airport that would need to be replaced in the future? How much more de-icing implementation, fluid runoff implementation of improvements needs to be done on the rest of the airport? I mean, are we nearing completion on this process, or is it a never-ending process, or what, through the chair?
Through the chair, a good question. What we do with the FAA is we do a pavement management study every 5 years. And we take that study and identify specific areas of all of our ramps, taxiways, and runways where vulnerabilities may be. And that goes into a calculation when we meet with the FAA for future projects moving forward. This area obviously was identified as a specific area of the ramp that needs to be replaced. As you can see, it was 30 years old or so. Moving forward, there's always areas of pavement, whether it's asphalt or concrete, that need to be replaced. It's just with freeze-thaw, summer, winter, with the Rochester weather that we have here, there's always maintenance on those. So far, we're in pretty good shape. When you look at the complete overall property, the pavement property on the ramps, taxiways, and runways, but it is an ongoing process that gets reevaluated every 5 years.
Thank you. And as a follow-up through the chair, when was the last time we did the 5-year study?
That was done about 3 years ago.
Okay.
So we've got a couple more years, then we'll get it going again.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 19-0043.
Moved by Legislator Wilt, seconded by Legislator DeFlorio. Is there any discussion? Legislator DeFlorio.
Yes, through the chair, can the administration please just sort of describe the exact use, the roadway, what it's used for on the airport?
Yep, sure. Through the chairman, the airport has a perimeter roadway on the inside of the fence, so that's in a secured area. It really allows the operations team, emergency responders, being the fire department or the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, which is our law enforcement entity at the airport, to circular around the entire property on the inside of the fence.
And through the chair, as a follow-up, can you just explain a little bit more detail why it needs to be realigned and what that alignment entails?
Sure. Through the chairman, on the west side of the airport where this project is being proposed, the existing road and pavement there is crumbling. It's falling apart, and it's very close to what's called the runway safety area, and that's from the center line of the runway going 250 feet out. This road is right at that border, if you want to call it. The FAA has identified that that's not really acceptable in this day and age. They're very concerned about runway safety areas. And so working with the FAA, we're moving it out away from there, so there is no real penetration of that runway safety area, and it requires a brand new road to be put in, a asphalt gravel type road.
Thank you.
Legislator Baroth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the administration, the referral describes how there's going to be drainage improvements and, quote, management of minor impacts on Little Black Creek. Could you describe what those minor impacts are?
Yes, through the chairman. That's just basically kind of runoff going into Little Black Creek. We're not proposing moving the creek by any means, but certainly when you get near any kind of waterway, the FAA gets very concerned about the impacts to that waterway. And so we just want to make sure that anything that is done with this particular A perimeter road is done in accordance with what FAA would expect us to do and to mitigate any potential issues of negatively impacting that creek.
Thank you. And through the chair of the administration, am I correct to assume that the road is not close to any where the airliners would be doing de-icing and other such things?
That is correct. It's not anywhere near there.
Okay. Finally, through the chair of the administration, it mentions tree clearing will also be performed as necessary for airfield security. That doesn't have any environmental impact, through the chair?
I'm sorry, through the chair, that also gets approved by the FAA. In this particular area, they would be classified as kind of scrub trees. Nothing of significance. And so, yeah, I mean, all of this gets reviewed under the guidance of what the FAA allows us to do in these type of projects.
Okay, so in a sense, the FAA determines whether or not these are minor or not, they approve or not. Is that correct, through the chair?
Through the chair, yes. We review these type of projects quite intensely with the FAA, and we are actually going down to meet with the FAA in New York City on Wednesday, where we will be reviewing these projects yet again face-to-face with them moving forward.
Okay, thank you very much.
Director Moore, I had a couple questions,
Yes.
if I may. You mentioned the FAA and, they're rebuilding the taxiways as required by a 5-year annual assessment by the FAA. Do they do something similar in the case of airfield security? I'm sort of curious how FAA plays into the whole airport upkeep and expenditures. Do they have a plan where they hold the county accountable for doing these different measures of surveying runways and security areas, or do they actually come in and meet with you and they go over the plans that would cause, our facility to become more compliant, either by the current rules or what they anticipate being the future regulations?
Sure. Through the chairman, good point. Through the chairman, a lot of what you said is true, and there's a couple different ways that you have to look at it. One, the FAA every year does a certification inspection of the entire airfield. It's a 3-day, really 8 to 5 thorough inspection. They go through it with our operations supervisor, from little things like paint depth to tire tracks on the runways to making sure the lights are working properly, inspection of equipment, inspection of signage, all that stuff, and then they meet with the director to go over their findings. This airport's done an excellent job, and we've passed with flying colors every year since I've been affiliated with the airport. So there's a level of oversight and a level of the airport being held responsible. Ultimately, what the FAA does is they create an ACIP, an Airport Capital Improvement Program. And it's kind of a short-term document. It's about 3 years. And it identifies what are the priorities of the FAA for those next 3 years. And they work in conjunction with us. They look at the pavement management study, which I mentioned earlier. They look at what the hot spots are of airports, and those can be anywhere from intersections to taxiway alignments to ramp issues with jet bridges. Unfortunately, a lot of times when there's an incident at an airport anywhere in the country, that kind of triggers these hot spots, and then the FAA realizes we need to start looking at this at all 300 plus airports across the country, commercial service airports. And so you put this document together with the FAA, the ACIP, but then the County of Monroe, working with the Monroe County Airport Authority, also has our CIP that this body approves every year. One of the difficulties that we have with the ACIP and the CIP is we can put a program or a project in the CIP, the county document, and have it ready to go, but then meet with the FAA like I'm doing on Wednesday and have them decide, you know what, we really want to move this project forward and move this project backwards. And they control 90% of our funding, so they have the purse strings And, quite honestly, the authority to work with us on moving certain projects forward or backwards, depending on what those priorities are. And so, in a roundabout answer to your question, there are multiple avenues that we plan for projects on the ramps, taxiways, and runways, and there's also a multiple oversight to make sure that due diligence is done by the airport staff and airport team, working with the FAA.
Right. Well, thank you very much. I've been
Sure.
curious and wanted to ask that question for some time now.
I'd be,
Various things
through the
going
chair,
on.
I'd be happy to talk to you or anybody more in depth. I'm trying to give a quick summary, but there's
Yeah.
obviously a lot more to it than what I
Right.
described.
No, that 10,000-foot view was fine. I was curious as to the role that the FAA played in conjunction with the county's role, so.
And through the chair, TSA also plays a role in security. I neglected to mention that earlier. So when it comes to the perimeter fence line, you also need to get authorization for what you're doing with TSA in our security documents that we file with them every year.
Right. And a very short follow-up question was, how would you define airfield security? Is that line of sight security? Is that camera surveillance security? Is it patrolled security? When we're taking trees down to improve airfield security, what specifically do they have in mind? What security measure are they looking at?
Through the chair, airport security can come in multiple different facets. You just mentioned a couple of them. The Monroe County Sheriff's Office provides the human element to it. They drive around that perimeter road that I was
Okay.
talking about. They also do what are identified as kind of traps, where they will be in certain areas on the property, and any vehicles that pass them have to show proper ID badge to be in certain areas of the airfield, depending on what they're authorized to do, such as fueling trucks or de-icing trucks. The size of the fence line needs to be secured, so during wind or snow or whatever it may be, if certain areas of the fence become unsecured, meaning you can pull the fence back and climb underneath them, you need to regularly check that, and that becomes a part of our inspection of the fence line. And then the airport operations team, the MEOs out there, also a part of their obligation and responsibility is to keep eyes and ears open on what's going on the fence line, in the property. If you see something that doesn't look right, they need to go address it. And if it's something that looks like there may be an element of criminal activity, then they need to bring in the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. So there are a lot of different elements to airport security, also including camera coverage, which we do have on our taxiways, ramps, and roadways, that is viewed by AirCom, our internal security team at the airport.
Okay, thank you. I'm appreciative of your extensive knowledge on all these questions that I took everybody's time up asking here. So, is there any discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 19-0044. Authorize a contract.
Moved by Legislator Howland, seconded by Legislator Draw. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in... What? Legislator Wilt. Oh. I'm sorry, I failed to recognize Legislator Wilt. You're okay? All right. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 19-0045.
Moved by Legislator DeFlorio, seconded by Legislator Wilt. Is there any discussion? Legislator Baroth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I didn't know if this question was going to be asked or not. But how did the meeting of the Monroe County Planning Board go on the 14th, through the chair?
Through the chair, this resolution was passed unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Is there any other discussion? Here, Legislator Fucci.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the administration. So the local share, which is about $150,000, where does that come from?
Through the chair, the local share comes from Monroe County Airport Authority funds through our renewal and replacement account. We call it the R&R account.
Thank you, and through the chair to the administration, then that is money that's acquired by fees, or is it levy dollars?
Through the chair, it is, it comes from fees that the airlines pay to operate out of the airport, but also comes from revenues from non-aeronautical sources such as concessions, car rental, Lyft and Uber, those type of entities.
Terrific, thank you very much.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 19-0060.
Moved by Legislator Wilt, seconded by Legislator DeFlorio. Any discussion? Legislator Wilt.
Yes, through the chair. Did the Monroe County Planning Board approve this project at their February meeting?
Through the chair, yes, they did, unanimously.
And through the chair, what are the estimated start and completion dates of this project?
Through the chair, we would begin design in March. We would bid the project over the summer and be ready for construction at the end of the 2019 season in September and be complete by the end of the year.
Legislator Mafucci.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the administration. So this expense, would this normally have been the responsibility of the local development corporation that we closed?
Through the chair, no, it would not. In fact, this was a county expense back in 2008 when the field was replaced then.
I have a follow-up question through the administration. So this has already been done?
Through the chair, this project was done back in 2008, and the field was replaced back in 2008. It is being replaced now again. Fields generally have about a 10 to 12 year useful life, and based on input from the Red Wings, the management, as well as groundskeepers and players, it's determined that now would be an optimum time to replace the field again.
Thank you. Through you to through the administration, through the chair to the administration. Okay, I get that. So I'm going to ask another question through the chair to the administration. So if the local development corporation had not been closed, the Greater Rochester Outdoor Sports Authority, how would this have been their responsibility?
Through the chair, no. As previously answered, when this was done 8 years or 10 years ago in 2008, it was the county's responsibility, and the county performed the work. So even when the LDC existed, the facility is a county property, and the county has the obligation as the owners to maintain the property. And we performed, we had the responsibility for the field, and we performed the work previously, as we are coming to you to get authorization to do again now.
Thank you. I have one more follow-up question through the chair to the administration. So when local development corporations were formed, those are organizations that operate outside the county. So when we negotiated contracts with them in the past, we paid for improvements to the stadium, even though the stadium was run by a private organization?
Through the chair, correct. We were the landlord, and they were the renter. The LDC was. So as the landlord, we still had the responsibility for the property.
Thank you.
Legislator Mafucci, or I'm sorry, Legislator Baroth.
Thank you. Hey, we look alike. So, thank you very much for that, Mr. Chair. Through you to the administration, I just want to make sure I'm clear on something here. We want to amend Resolution 358 of 2018, which is for the general term services for these companies. And is that because for the single year, we anticipate that these architectural and engineering services for the stadium will cost approximately $250,000, or will be more than $250,000?
Through the chair, we intend to use one of the firms that's on that list. We expect that the cost may be approximately $250,000. We have to amend that prior resolution that included all 5 firms, but we intend to use one firm, Barton LaJudas, as a prime consultant for the project.
Okay, and through the chair of the administration, this is for 1 year only, if I read it correctly. In the years going out, it's going back down to $300,000 for the term services for all 5 of the companies, correct, through the chair?
Through the chair, that is correct.
Okay, so it's conceivable, through the chair, that even if we spend $250,000 on this particular project, that the overall $550,000 amount may not be reached for other reasons. Is that correct, through the chair? For this year, this year.
Through the chair, we may not utilize all of the authorization that we have for other projects. We may. This certainly gives us the authorization to do that, and the intent was that we would on a as-needed basis. But we wanted to make sure we had sufficient funding necessary to be able to design this project.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Legislator Mafucci.
Thank you. I just have one follow-up question through the chair to the administration. When we closed the LDC that ran the outdoor sports facilities, I know we extinguished a bunch of debt, about $32 million worth of debt. Did we get any cash? Just where I'm going, is there cash available to offset the $2.4 million, or are we going to borrow it or expense it some other way?
Mr. Chairman, when the LDC dissolved, there was some cash transferred. I do not have my notes regarding that, but there was not sufficient cash that certainly could cover this project. I could come up with that number, and I can probably endeavor to do so by tomorrow, but at least by the legislative vote.
And that's fine. I certainly didn't expect you to have that right at hand, but I was just curious. So there could be money available through the chair to the administration.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Item carries. Are there any other matters to come before the committee? There being no other matters, the February 25th, 2019 meeting of the Environment and Public Works Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Environment and Public Works Committee will be held on Monday, March 25th, 2019 at 5:45 p.m.